The last show I played was in front of 100,000 people. And then they wonder why I'm not doing that now. And I'll say, because this is the one moment in my life where I'm going to be able to look back as an old man and say, oh my God, I was a part of the team that changed the world. My name is Tom Delonge. A lot of people know me from my band Blink-182. I started that band when I was 16. As an artist, I kind of conquered, in some respect, what I wanted to do with music. You know, I couldn't believe where I got, you know, and I was like, okay, well, this is a great time to try and do something else. Back in 2014, I started To the Stars, a media company that would develop science fiction-based films, books, TV shows, comics, all of it. But I really wanted to make this new project more ambitious, more impactful, and to have it make a lasting impression on people's lives. I recognized that there were people in government that wanted to engage the public on topics that unfortunately had a stigma, even though they were based in scientific fact. At the time, there was no mechanism for them to do this. Through a series of meetings, I was soon connected to a large group of US government officials, from the CIA, the Department of Defense, and Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. These guys were the ones involved in the secretive US government programs that dealt with these subjects. And they have all taken tremendous risks to themselves and their reputations to do something that can benefit the world. They wanted to be a part of something special, to be a part of a company that could not only change the way we see ourselves, but also change the path humanity is on. We created a company called To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. As a team, we synergistically united our strengths. With the entertainment division, we create worlds, science fiction stories that inspire and transcend. We are a publisher, a merchandiser, and a production studio. We have stories about dreams, consciousness, the paranormal, UFOs, and many other themes that once used to be taboo, but after newly declassified government documents, are now proving to be absolutely real. We even have our own reality series launching this year on the History Channel, a weekly 1-hour series on our company and all that we do. In the science division, we are building the world's first and only artificial intelligence database of unexplained events, deploying data collection teams internationally, and analyzing exotic materials originating from unidentified aerial phenomena. For the first time, these opportunities are real and have the potential to completely revolutionize the way we live. And here, for the first time in history, this group of spies, aerospace engineers, and secretive government officials have chosen to team up with an award-winning producer to change the status quo. We want to do something more than just tell a story this time. We want to be in the story and then bring it all to life. Educating the world, creating revolutionary technology, and telling the story of the millennia, and doing it all together. There's nothing bigger. To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science is where science fiction becomes reality. I wanted to make a quick message to let you know that from the heart, I left my band and all that I was known for because this is the moment in time where I can change the world for my kids and everybody else's. I would love for you to consider doing that with us. Early this year, I set out to do something pretty challenging. I wanted to shift perception on an extraordinary topic that had already over 70 years of research, opinion, and frankly, quite effective disinformation. I had the rare opportunity to present my ideas to an executive with the Department of Defense who worked in special access programs in an area called Watertown, also known as Area 51. That meeting led to multiple clandestine encounters across the United States, from desert airports to vacant buildings deep within Washington, D.C. From these exchanges, I learned 3 things. 1, there are certain things that should never have been secret. 2, there are secrets that were justifiable at the time but should now be disclosed. And 3, there are things that are so unimaginable that certain interests believe that they should never, ever be made public. After this, you might even agree.
Like, I think most people like to think of UFOs as they're coming from another planet. You know, we found an exoplanet and it's coming there. And how do they travel? Well, they could do it in 30 years if they go fast. Well, the data doesn't seem to suggest that really. It's more what's happening at Skinwalker, where it seems like it's more about frequencies and dimensional or dematerialized. It's almost like they're a displacement craft that displaces our time like a submarine would in the ocean. And that was a lot of what Dr. Hal Puthoff worked on ATIP, was understanding the attributes of the propulsion and the science that they're using. And I think once you think about UFOs using that kind of a technology, then it's kind of like, well, if they do that, if they use that, that means there's things that are adjacent to us that we don't see, we don't understand, but are like right here. And every once in a while, they can kind of cross over. Is it because we're aware of it and can see it and that opens it? Or is it because it's a geomagnetic area where those types of things have an easier time coming through? Or is it everywhere and we just think it's in one location? I don't know. I was out in Colorado Springs and I had a meeting with a couple of generals and we were just shooting the shit about all this stuff. And something was discussed that, you know, it wasn't some big classified thing. It was more like things that people are having happen to them or witnessing, and it's an issue. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night, I was like, you start to look around you and not really trust your environment. You know, it's like, whoa, like, really? It's like when you're alone in your bedroom in the middle of the night, you got to look around and go, who knows what can happen? And that's kind of where I've landed over the past few years, is just like going, anything is possible. Is I don't personally, and I don't know this, but I don't think these are coming from space. I don't think they're coming from deep space. So if we're looking at the oceans, but we're wondering where we're going to find a planet, you know, you're not going to find one there, you know? So I think it's better that we're monitoring, you know, the area around our planet and what things are materializing in this realm. And that, so I think astronomers are looking far out. And I'm not saying that there isn't other life out there and they're not sending drones out, or maybe they're got advanced enough to travel. I'm not saying that. I just have this feeling that the universe is more of a duality structure where time can extend in two directions in the exact same moment in the exact same place, which means people that are very advanced, or things that are very advanced, can just pop over like a radio station. And that's why we're not seeing them, because we're looking out at Mars, or we're looking out at like Alpha Centauri, and we're like, where's it coming from? You know, it's like, no, it's in Utah. It's just in the future or something.
I have a lot of compassion for people because I've been brought into circles and I've been brought into things that are unnerving and a bit scary for people, and I feel more compassion because they think it's just about, wow, you know, you must feel so cool. Well, not really, because you don't know the whole story. And when you do, it's going to probably upset you for a little while. And that's kind of what the purpose is for my company, is to help everyone through that, to digest it and to not lose hope, and to look at the brighter points of it, because there are some negative points of it. And so I don't really like jump up and down feeling cool about this. I'm like, ugh.
You know, since UFOs and other life have been around us, like you said, for the last 70 years at least, but probably
they've been here forever, but we've known about it we've known about it in a big way for 70 years. I think that all the ancient texts talk about it, and we thought of them as angels and the Greek gods and all these different things. And we'll find out over time that maybe some of that stuff is all pointing to what this was. But for like in modern history, we've really woken up to it, not where a lot of these things aren't just myth. We're like, oh my God, those aren't mythologies. Those were people talking about this subject, but they didn't know how to discuss it.
Do you think that, you know, if aliens or UFOs, like if they wanted to harm us, don't you think that they would have already done that?
Yeah, you know, maybe. I think that, like, you know, I think that any advanced civilization is going to do things on an advanced level. Even we do that as Americans. We'll go into like some small third world country and we'll be there secretly, and we'll kind of fuck with the economy or with the political leadership, or we'll set up things to kind of spearhead that culture to grow in our image. And there's probably collateral damage in doing such a thing. And then you got to ask the people on the ground, you know, is the United States good or are they bad? The one thing they could say is, well, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but they always do what's in their interest, you know, and sometimes that helps us and sometimes it doesn't. Now imagine if there's Russia America and China all doing that to the same little island, like it's going to be a mess. And at any given moment, one country is doing something better for you than the other, but it changes, on an ongoing basis. So I don't really think it's a matter of saying it's good or bad. I think it's more of a matter of what are they doing, and it's likely in their best interest. And does that help us or hurt us at any given time? And these are big questions, we don't know. The UFO subject, life forms coming here, interacting with our world, and our government scurrying around trying to figure it out and deal with it, is going, when it comes out, and it is going to change the way people think about themselves, the belief systems that they have, religion, geopolitical order, technology that can give clean running water and clean energy. All these things, all these massively transformative technologies and ideas will come from it. And it's the only subject. There's no other subject that will bring the whole world together except for this one. And that's why I believe in it so much. And honestly, I've been brought in to circles that have given me the facts, and so I'm very passionate about it because it's as real as the phone we're on, so people need to get ready. They need to brace themselves because this I've been telling everybody it's coming.
It does reach back to all the ancient civilizations and all the ancient religions and all that stuff. It's all connected. So there's a very specific way this is going to be framed for you guys in the world in the coming years that is understandable, but there is an element that is unknown that is really tricky with this stuff. There's really smart people in very secretive places debating if the whole thing is theater to prepare us for the universe at large, or this whole thing is some type of farm. Could be for energy, it could be for resources of other nature, it could be whatever. But we do know that it has the power to direct how mankind evolves over a very long period of time, and potentially in cycles. Because when you look at the Giza pyramids and some of these other places, there's some grand cycles that we're starting to discover with mankind. We're kind of going, okay, maybe we're a little bit older than 3000 BC, I remember a very specific question I asked to a very important person, and I described all these events that have happened over the past 70 years, big, important things. And then I described a whole other series of events that happened, but they were kind of opposite. And I remember I asked them all, is this the angels and the demons of the Bible? And all I got back was, yes. And then I said, they must not like each other then. Agreed. And that was the end of it, And then, about a week later, I got 2 words back, and it said proxy war. And I thought that was really interesting. There's a lot going on. So the idea of religion started because we saw these angels. Well, then we might work our way up and realize, well, no, these are some race that has a force field around themselves, and they glow, and they float. And it fucks with your mind, and you think it's a dream, but it's not. But it's the same things, So, but maybe through science we'll discover that. But for thousands of years, it was religion. So it's something to think about.
Well, people need to think a little bit differently than extraterrestrial. That's kind of the Easter egg I'm going to throw into this conversation. It's not looking to be something that's coming from other planets. The problem here is that it's just going to make people have to rethink how the universe is actually ordered and what it is. And that's one of the big difficult parts of the conversation. I always try to tell people when I can, this idea that we know aliens are coming, they're here from other planets. No, that's what we see is really not even the truth of what the universe is. So it's like we're obsessed with looking at Hubble and we're like, oh, there's stars, there's galaxies. What we're doing is we're in an ocean. We're like a fish in an ocean, and we have no idea that islands exist. We have no idea that there's like cities and stuff like beyond our comprehension, So I think people are going to really be we're going to be a different type of species ourselves after we know all this stuff in the coming years, I think. I have a very good reason to believe that advanced intelligent races are not just going from point A to point B. They're not just coming, not all of them just come from a planet to our planet, that there are two opposite universes, and this where we are where they both can exist. And using frequency, you can hop back and forth. But in that other universe, time runs backwards and physics is opposite. There's an Easter egg for you. Because I think a lot of people tend to think that alien means one thing. You know, I always tell people, if you're in the ocean and you're a fish and you see like a jellyfish come by, you're like, whoa, okay, this place is full of that life form. And then like a dolphin comes by and you're like, wait, okay, that too. And then a whale. And then next thing you know, like a can of Coke, like pollution. And you have no idea that there's even land up above the ocean off there with all these humans throwing trash in the ocean, you know? So I think when people think about aliens, you know, they think the same thing. It's like, okay, so what are they like? Well, what, the dolphin, the Coke can, you know, it's teeming with life, and there's so much more to it. But I tend to think that what people most commonly think of when they think of aliens, they think of like, you know, the big headed, big black eyes that you see on a t-shirt and stuff. And I think that if you were going to compare the legend of those clones, you might want to look at some of the biggest pieces of art that have ever come out in humanity. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, even all the Avengers movies are dealing with free-willed human beings taking on a clone army. And I think that's something that people need to think about. I feel like everyone wants the same thing, but there's some weird reason why we're all pitted against each other and why we can't sort it out. I came to the conclusion that when you study like the UFO thing, you will at some point get forced to dive into ancient religious texts and kind of historical, paths of human behavior and humanity. And then it kind of gets you into now with what the governments of the world know and what they're hiding from each other. And it's like all connected to the same tree. They're all branches of the same tree. That the universe is teeming with life, and their influence on this planet over thousands of years has led us to this point. And it might not be, and I'm throwing out Easter eggs here, it might not be for good reason. You know, it might be for self-interest of other players that are competing amongst themselves. Makes you wonder if we're in a big proxy war or not, you know? And that's kind of the way I view this, that if the universe is as big as we all know it to be, and it's full of so many things, and it's full of dimensional realities that we don't totally understand yet, then there stands a great chance that, you know, their influence on us is no different than our influence on small little islands and tribes as we were growing as a country. The British Empire would show up in some little Pacific Asian islands or something and set up shop and try to govern them, kind of want their money, want their resources, but leave, but then come back and create a war, then burn them to the ground, and then later on something else, and then Spain will come in and do the same thing. So now you got Britain, you know, and you got Spain, and they're having kind of a proxy war, and all that happens is no different than what happens to Syria. Like Syria is basically a mess because Russia and the United States are having a proxy war there. But if you're on the ground in Syria, you just see something fly over your head. Don't know it's a jet, you know, you're, whoa, what is that? I heard a noise, you know, they see the economy going up and down, they an explosion over here, this person dies, this person gets kidnapped. But overall, you're just kind of living your life and kind of going, why is everything such a mess? Well, I that's why I got into this, is because I think that once the world realizes and knows what the US government and other governments know about this, we're all going to stop and look at each other. Oh my God, we've been had, we've been duped. We've been influenced to be exactly this right now because we are not as strong when we're not together. And we're really serving the purposes of someone else's agenda, not a human thing. This could be way bigger. And so my idea was, if that's the case, and that's where all this points, then I think the idea of bringing the stuff out, having the conversation and having the capacity to look at each other and say, what is this all about here on Earth? We are very insignificant. We're one little tiny speck of dust in the universe. We better take care of each other and it, you know, and we ought to do it quick, you know? So this is going to start to come out in a much bigger way, as I've been saying, and I've been telling people this for a few years now. So I'm looking for good things though when it comes out. I'm looking for people to kind of go, wow, this all makes a lot of sense. And we won't know everything, but with what we do know, I think it'll change the world. So that's what I'm hoping for.